Hey, what's going on, everybody? Want to go ahead and throw out our first video of the year for our virtual academy. This one is going to cover our defensive overview for the Port Angeles Rough Rider football defense. All right, let's get into things. First things first, we are a 3-4 defensive scheme. Okay, I want to go down, break things down by position very quickly to help you understand those. So our defense consists of two defensive ends. We have our anchor end and our rush end. Okay, the anchor end will always align on where whatever we declare is the strong side of the formation. Okay, the rush the rush will always align on the weak side of the formation, and the nose will align, in a zero technique over the center, and then he will shade to the call side. All right. We have four linebackers. Our two inside linebackers will align at 5 yards. So that means their heels are on the 5 yard line. Um, the linebacker that aligns to the side of the strength is called our Mike. The linebacker that aligns to the or away from the strength is called the Will. Once again, their heels are at 5 yards. Our two outside linebackers are, um, you know, are two different types of athletes. Our bandit is generally more of a hybrid type of player. This could be a fifth defensive back, could be a nickel back. Um, but they're going to go ahead. They align in what we call a stem position, meaning their heels are at 4 yards and they're going to be 3 yards outside of the end man on the line of scrimmage, okay, for the offense. And that'll come into play when we talk about some of our coverages and attachments to offensive formations. But the outside linebacker that aligns away from the strength is what we call the bandit. The linebacker that aligns to the side of the strength, okay, is our Sam, and he will align stemmed unless there is a tight end present or an attached slot, depending upon what we see week to week from the teams that we're playing. Our two corners will align at 7 yards. That is their base depth, unless they're in man coverage, and then they'll have the option come down and play press, depending upon their skill level. And then our two safeties, our free safety and our strong safety. Our strong safety will always align to the side of the strength, and he'll be comboing with our Sam and our strong side corner. The free safety will align backside, and he will pair up with our bandit. All right. Both those guys, they should have their heels at 10. Moving on. All right. Just get some basics out of the way, just so we're all talking in the same language here, talking about some terminology. When we look at the gaps in our defense and the way that we talk about the defensive front and where the places that the offense can attack, the place between the center and guard, we call that the A gap. Okay. Between the guard and the tackle, we call that the B gap. Any gaps between the tackle and the tight end, the offensive tackle and the tight end, we call that C. And then anything wider than the tight end, we're going to call that the D gap. Okay. When we talk about our defensive alignments, and this is important for our offensive cats to know too, so that we're all speaking the same language. Defensive alignments deal with the shading of our nose and our defensive ends. Okay, anytime that we're talking about a heads up nose guard, we'll call him a zero technique. Okay, or we'll call him a one, a one strong or a one weak, depending upon what defensive scheme we're in. Okay, any alignments that take place heads up over the guard. Okay, heads up over the guard, we call those a two. That means you should be looking at the offensive lineman straight in the eyes. A 2-eye is an inside shade of the guard, and a 3 technique is the outside shade of the guard. All right. Alignments on the tackles. Okay, alignments on the tackles. We'll start off. If we're if we're heads up on that tackle, once again looking him in the eyes, we call that a 4 technique. If we are an inside shade, we call that a 4-eye, and if we're an outside shade, we call those a 5. Okay. Now going on the ones that doesn't make a lot of sense. This is just how the football gods kind of rolled it out there. It's how I learned it. So it's how we roll it. Alignments on a tight end. Okay, alignments on a tight end. If we are aligned on the inside shade of a tight end, we call that a 7. If we are heads up on a tight end, we call that a 6. And the outside shade on a tight end, we go ahead and call that a 9. All right. So just to reiterate, the nose alignments, if your head's up, you're a 0. If you're in a shade, either strong or weak, we'll call that a 1. On the guard, all right, it goes inside shade is 2i, heads up is a 2, outside shade of the guard is a 3. If you're aligned on the tackle, right, you're either a heads up shade is a 4, inside shade is a 4i, outside shade is a 5. And then the tight end going from the inside out, inside shade is a 7, heads up is a 6, outside shade is a 9. Okay, so if your coach tells you, hey, you should be in a 9 technique right now, the expectation is that you understand, your position relative to that tight end, or whoever you're supposed to line up on. Next thing that we're going to talk about is our strength calls. Okay, our strength calls and how we dictate the strength. Big thing that our strength call is called by our Mike Backer, as the offense is approaching the line of scrimmage. He's going to go ahead. He's going to look for the tight end. If it is a tight end, if the team is playing with a tight end, there'll be oftentimes, and for the purposes of our fall training camp, um, we will identify H's or attach slots that are less than 3 yards from the end man line of scrimmage. We'll call those tight ends as well, just because oftentimes their play style is very similar to a tight end, and the offense is trying to do similar things with those types of personnel. So if we've got a sniffer H back or an attached slot, we'll call those tight ends. We'll call strength to that side as well. If there's no tight end, we'll call the strength to the multiple receiver side. If everything's balanced out, okay, if everything's balanced out, we'll go ahead and we'll call strength to the field. And then if it's balanced out, we're in the middle of the field. When in doubt, call it to the left. Right? Most offensive coordinators are right-handed. They think about their even numbers for their odds. So we go ahead and we'll call that strength to the left-hand side. What does this look like in practical purposes? So when we say calling it to the tight end, so if I'm the Mike Backer, all right, if I'm that inside linebacker, I'm looking, and I'm counting 1, 2, 3, and I'm looking for that tight end present on the line of scrimmage. Okay. Um, can't get tied up. They might put a 3 receiver set or something else out here. If they have a nub tight end, like this situation where he's the only person on this sideline, we're still going to call the strength to that side because that is their run strength based upon the men or the amount of people they have sitting on the line of scrimmage there. All right. What does an attached slot looks like? Well, a little bit something like this. Okay. You got a 2-man surface, with an attached slot, making this a 3-man surface. Just because he's off the line of scrimmage doesn't mean he can't block. So we're going to call him a tight end as well. And then this is an H or a sniffer back. Generally, these guys will align behind the guard or slightly offset, and their purposes is usually run blocking. And so we'll go ahead and we'll call this the strength to the side of the H as well. Okay. When we say to the multiple receiver side, we need to make sure that we're going ahead and we're counting receivers. If everything else is balanced, we've got, guard tackle. We've got 2 backs in the backfield. He needs to go ahead and he needs to look for that multiple receiver side. So in this case, this would be a strong left. Unit empty, where you got 5 wide. All right, we're going to go ahead. We'll take a look which one's the multiple receiver side. So in this case, down below here, this would be a strong right. All right. Now that we're all talking the same language, we're going to go into our defensive fronts. This won't be all of our fronts, just the most common ones and the ones that we will possibly see during fall training camp. I don't like to run a ton of fronts out there, to be honest with you. I want to get good at what we do, and what we do is rip and wrap. Okay, for the most part, rip and wrap. Like I said, we have 3 down linemen. And then that Sam will go ahead and attach if there is a tight end present. Okay, so in this situation here, that Sam has dropped down, this is a strong right. We have a tight end. Our Sam has dropped down into a 9 technique. Okay, now when we call wrap, All right. When we call wrap, the signal for wrap, all right, we're going to go ahead. The coach will grab his wrist and he will pull up his arm like he's wrapping it up. Okay. Now, what that means for our defensive line and linebackers is that we are in essentially what we call a 54. Okay. Our defensive line will go ahead and flip flop, based upon the side of the strength. So if it's a strong left, we would see the anchor on the opposite side. If it's a strong right, the anchor will align on the right. Okay. Now, in wrap, what I mean by 54 is this. Okay. That anchor will be playing a 5 shade and he will be responsible for C gap. Okay. The rush on the weak side, okay, he will be playing a 4-eye and he is B gap responsible. Okay. So our nose then will align to the side of the string. So he'll shift. All right. And he'll be a strong side 1 technique. And he will go ahead and he will and he is A gap responsible to the side of the strength. So that covers our defensive lineman. The 54 means, hey, the 5 is first, so that talks to the strength side. The 4 is second, so that talks to the weak side. All right. So when I say wrap or 54, all right, that's what I'm referring to. All right, is the alignment of our defensive ends. All right. Once again, our anchor is in a 5 technique, C gap responsible. Our rush is in a 4-eye, he's B gap responsible. Nose will align to the side of the strength, all right, and he's responsible for that A gap, okay. It is the Mike and Will's job, all right, to get these guys aligned. They need to make a call quickly so that they can go ahead and shade to the appropriate side. If they're not there or if they're in the wrong spot, they need to go up and tap them on the rear and get them where they need to be. Okay. For everybody else for this particular alignment, our bandit is stemmed. He's at his 4x3. He's reading the end man on the line of scrimmage. Once again, the Sam's playing a 9. He needs to be getting his hands on that tight end. And then, or if it's a pass, he will go ahead and he'll drop to his zone. Our base coverages out of this is our green package. It is our green read 2 coverage, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute. All right, rip. The hand signal for rip is we're going to start at the top of our arm and we'll rip down, top of our arm and we'll rip down. That tells us that we're in a 45 alignment. Now, the 45 alignment is the opposite of wrap, in which the anchor is now playing the 4-eye, so he'll align as the 4-eye, and he is now B gap responsible. The nose will align as a 1 technique to the weak side, and now our rush is a 5 technique. Okay, our rush is a 5 technique. All right. So it's just the opposite of wrap. Nothing else changes for anybody else. The Sam still plays a 5 technique. The bandit will remain stemmed. Reading the end man on the line of scrimmage. Mike and Will play the same. They're playing their same squeeze technique. Next defensive front, we'll take a look at is if we need to reduce down to a 4-man front, this turns into a 5-man front if we have the addition of a tight end in play. But this is our fisto. Our fisto hand signal is right here. Okay, it's just a fist in the air. That is our fisto front. This is essentially weak eagle for us. We're going to reduce the rush end down into a 3 technique. Okay, so he'll be B gap responsible, and then we're going to go ahead and we'll bring the bandit down into a 5 technique, and he'll play over the end man line of scrimmage right here on top of that tackle, and essentially be responsible for the CD gap on the weak side. For our other defensive linemen, nose will align to the 1 technique to the strong side. The anchor will align as a 5 technique to the strong side, and then once again, the Sam, his alignment is dependent upon the presence of a tight end. But generally, if we're running fisto, we're playing a tight end team or a tight end wing team, or something where we want to go ahead and we want to get more people on the line of scrimmage. So that is when. That's when you'll see this called. So most of the time he'll be aligned as a 9. All right. For our Defensive backs here, nothing changes. They can stay in their base alignment. This would be a week-to-week call, whether if we're in Fisto, if we want to go ahead and press and bring those corners down the line of scrimmage and possibly bring our safety down to a depth of 7 yards. But, for right now, for fall camp purposes, we'll keep those guys at 10 just to keep that level of consistency. The last defensive front that we'll be using in our fall camp is our Indo, our 44 package. The 44 means, hey, that both of our rush and anchor are playing a 4-eye, and they're both B-gap responsible. We use this defensive front generally when we're running our 2-high Arizona coverage package. So we keep 5 guys in the box. This is like a generally speaking, like, 3rd and 15, 3rd and long, 4th and long, where we want to go ahead and we're going to play that 2-man style of coverage here, and essentially give up anything underneath, or say that we're okay with giving up a few yards on the inside zone or something along those lines. But the rush line is a 4-eye, anchor runs is a 4-eye. Both those guys are B-gap responsible. The objective of our nose here is a lot different. They will go ahead and they will bull rush, and they are responsible for both A-gaps on either side. Okay. All right. Nothing changes for our Mike and Will. All right. This says 4 yards. They're actually aligning heels at 5. So I'll go ahead and make that correction now. Our bandit is stemmed 4x3. And generally, like I said, if we're running Indo, he'll probably be manned up. Okay. But that is all of our fronts, wrap, rip, Fisto, and Indo. Indo, you're looking like, as far as hand signals go, we'll go ahead and we'll make a V at about hip level. That designates that Indo call. All right. Now taking a look at our coverage package, just the basics of it, just so our kids can get a feel for what we're doing and how we're going to go ahead and do that. Let me take a look at something real quick. Okay. All right. Our green coverage is what we call our combo coverage. We call it combo because it's a combination coverage between the safety and the corner to whatever side that we have essentially 2 receivers on. Some rules for this are, when you let me go ahead and give you the diagram real quick before I go into the rules. Essentially, what we have here is, like I said, a combination between the corner and the free and whichever safety. This is a double set right here. So both sides here would be playing our green combo coverage. They are looking at that number 2 receiver here. Okay, so both the corner and both the safety are going to be reading this number 2 receiver. The way we counter receivers is from the outside in. So, uh, the receiver closest to the line of scrimmage out here, we'll always count him as 1. The receiver inside of him is 2. If this was a trip set, he'd be 3. In this case, if the back presents himself, he would be 3, but he'd be taken over by our bandit and our outside linebacker. When we look at the rules for this, so he's aligned at 7, he's aligned at 10. Both are going to start in a back pedal, or the corner may start in a shuffle step. But they're going to get their eyes on 2. All right. So what is the safety looking for here? If that number 2 runs any type of vertical route, okay, and that is essentially as soon as he passes linebacker depth, at about 5 yards, he runs any type of vertical route. That's it. That'll tell that safety that he is locked on him. Okay, that he is now, he's now his responsibility. If that receiver runs any type of in-breaking route, okay, if he runs anything in, say, a post, a hard slant, whatever that might be, okay, he is locked on him as well, right? If number 2 runs any type of out-breaking route, okay, then he will go ahead and he will pass him off, and the corner will take him over. All right. He then becomes the responsibility of the corner, and he will go ahead, and at that point, he will lock on number one. Okay. So that's the rules for the safety. All right. The rules for the corner, all right. The rules for the corner are just opposite. All right. If two runs avert, all right, he's going to lock on one. If two runs an in, like I said, this post or a slant, he's going to lock on number one. If two runs the out, then he locks on two. Okay. So, when we talk about green, we talk about combo, both of these guys just need to remember those three base things. All right. And they're looking at, did he run a vertical? All right. Is this an in breaking route? All right. How does that affect me? And it takes some practice and some getting used to, but overall, I think it's one of the most effective things that we can do. All right. Um, anytime that we get anytime that we do get an out call like this, for instance, if we get an out call by the corner where he identifies that number two has ran an out, he needs to make that out call so he can talk to the outside linebacker so the linebacker knows that this guy has been passed off and he can go ahead and he can continue to focus on a back, a wheel, or anything else that might come out of the backfield like that. All right. Up until that out call point, if we get an out breaking route, that backer needs to honor that and he needs to help out with that. So the outside linebackers rules on our combo coverage. First off, he's going to go ahead. He should be looking at the end man line of scrimmage. He should be looking at that tackle or tight end. He's essentially looking for a high hat or low hat read, meaning is he pass blocking or did he block in a run set? He'll go ahead and he will drop at a 45-degree angle, wall that number two receiver, meaning he's going to go ahead. He's going to give a hard shot on a vertical. He wants to get his hands on him. He wants to knock the crap out of that guy to buy some time for the safety. Um, and so, he wants to make number two run over top of him. If number two gets underneath him, all right, and makes it, an in, then he can go ahead and pass him off to the Will or the Mike. What do I mean by that? Meaning this receiver right here, all right, he does not want him to get inside of him, all right? He wants him to have to go around him, all right? So he's going to do that by putting his hands on him. He drops to the 45. He needs to go ahead, and when he is looking to deliver that shot, he's looking to deliver it to the inside number of that number two receiver. All right, we don't want any these quick slants that come underneath and attack our inside backers or look to turn it and burn it right there. Okay. Um, After he walls two, all right. So on his drop, like I said, he's looking to get that shot on number two, looking to make him either go around or if he's running a vertical to delay that vertical. Then he's going to look to get underneath one. What that means is, he wants to keep his body in some type of relationship that is between the route of the number one receiver and wherever the quarterback is. We want the quarterback to have to throw the ball over that backer in order to complete that pass. So when we say, hey, you're underneath one, all right, that's what we're talking about. Anytime that he gets a flat, okay, or a wheel from the back, he's going to have to go ahead and lock on those. So when we talk about the backs coming out of the backfield, if he is coming out of the backfield, right, on a flat route, right, our outside backers will go ahead and they will honor that, right, and he will essentially be manned up on any back that comes to the backfield. If it's a swing pass, right, he needs to stay at depth. We're saying that is not as big as a threat because the guy hasn't gained any yards yet, right? And so if that happens, all right, he'll go ahead and he'll stay at depth and he'll do his best to stay underneath one while honoring the swing. And then any type of bubble, to the number two receiver, we'll go ahead and we'll leverage that with our triangle fits. Okay, so that is essentially our green combo coverage there in a nutshell. This is something that we'll rep. Our outside linebackers, safeties, and corners will be all working together to make sure that this is a seamless process and this is something that we're able to get pretty good at. Okay. As far as how we play trips, We've got a few different ways that we can play trips. Our two most basic ones that we'll be working through in our fall camp are Gilligan and Mamba. A Gilligan call is essentially another type of read two, except for this time, um, that read two will take place between both safeties. So we're, sorry, when we make that Gilligan call, Gilligan locks the corner on the island with number one. Okay, I'm saying, hey, you're now manned up with one, and we're going to play read two with the two inside receivers here. Okay, we're going to play read two with the two inside receivers here. So they're going to both look at number three. They're looking for the same thing. Is he making it, is he going vertical? Okay, is he going inside or is he going outside? So if number three pushes vertical here, okay, number three pushes vertical, or if he makes an in-breaking route, the inside safety would take him over. Anything that goes outside, right, would be for the safety that is closest to the line of scrimmage, and then vice versa for the rules of the outside safety there. Okay, Mamba is the opposite. Okay, Mamba, we're still going to play read two with the corner and strong safety, except for this time, all right, we're going to go ahead and we're going to lock that inside safety on number three. Okay, so you can see, we've got read two by the corner and safety following the same combo rules as before. The free safety here is manned up on number three, whereas Gilligan, all right, the corner is the one that is manned up, and these two safeties are playing read two. The last coverage that we take a look at during our fall package, and this is essentially one of our prevent defenses, in which we'll use that Indo front, is our Arizona package. Generally, when we're running Arizona, we will take out our Bandit or our Sam, all right, depending upon our personnel, kind of what we're working with here. Um, and we will put in a fifth defensive back because they are playing man coverage. That's what our outside linebackers are designated doing this time. What this means is we're going to go ahead and we're going to man up everybody across the board. And then we'll go ahead with our safeties and we will have them play any type of vertical route that comes out, or we will have them bracket a designated most dangerous receiver. All right. Once again, this is our third, fourth, and long package here. The anything that comes out of the backfield, right? The outside linebackers no longer have to worry about. That becomes the responsibility of the Mike and Will. And then all gaps are taken care of by our defensive line. Once again, the nose will have both A gaps, both B gaps are taken care of by our two defensive ends. And then any type of sweep, outside zone, anything that hits C and D are the responsibility of the Mike, Will, and the safeties. All right, so that's pretty much our defense in a nutshell. Those are the things that we're going to be working on in fall camp. I'm super excited about it. We spent a lot of time making sure that this is something that we can be successful with. I think our fits our personnel. So I'm jacked about it, man. I'm ready to rock and roll. I hope you guys are too. Like I said, this is first installment, defensive overview.